Hey guys, I'm AGR and this is Should You Buy, my own twist on game reviews to decide if a game is worth your time and money. And this is Global Rescue. It's an emergency management sim where you manage emergency resources throughout the game. You start off with one section and then you progress, and I think eventually you can run police, fire, the control centre technically, and also ambulance. I only went as far as firefighting. So you'll be attaching emergency services to calls. You'll be buying and upgrading your base. I think you can have multiple bases as well. I haven't gotten to that part yet. The core idea is basically just a more modern emergency game. If you've ever played Emergency, I think there is still quite a community that play that game. It's kind of like a modern version of that, but I don't think it does it as well, which I'll explain later in the video. It also uses Google Maps, I believe, so you can choose anywhere in the world to place your base. I chose Scotland because that's obviously where I'm from, and I've seen other people choose different places in America, different places in Europe. I watched someone play in London, I think, as well. So in reality, you could build an emergency base where you live, or at least close to where you live, which is a cool little thing to add into a game. Albeit, I don't think it's as big of that deal as maybe it sounds. I didn't think it was that great. I know there's other games that have done it before, and it didn't really mystify me. I wasn't completely taken aback by it. It seems like it's more of like a background thing in this. It's just like a cool addition. It doesn't change a lot. Some of the maps, I've played multiple maps in Scotland. Some of the maps are awful. Like there was one where I had people get stuck on this really long road, so whenever I'd send out the police, they would have to drive all the way along this massive road before they could turn and go the opposite way, which was really frustrating. So they would take so long to get to calls, and I lost a bunch of calls, so I ended up scrapping that playthrough. So the main gameplay loop is more or less just the management side of your actual vehicles and emergency workers. The base building takes a back seat. You build the foundation at the start, then the only time you're really building onto it is when you're adding vehicle slots, more street parts of it, so that your vehicles can get in and out. Like I ended up adding a different row of vehicles, which was for the fire vehicles. It just kept it easier. You'll probably add more beds, food things and stuff, but that kind of thing is very basic. Fridges for food, toilets for the bathroom, showers, and beds, and seats as well. And then you'll add more control center desks as well, your dispatchers. What else? There's the actual dispatching is pretty simple, which I enjoy. I have seen that some people don't like it as much. I don't mind it personally. I think sometimes simplicity is a nice gameplay feature, not feature, but it's nice to have in the gameplay. It's annoying if you've got to press five different tabs just to send a vehicle out to somewhere. I like it simple. It does the job, and it means that you're not stuck messing about with vehicles for ages. The actual calls when your vehicles get there can be a little bit micromanaging. You can have to micro quite a lot, which is a little frustrating. There was one point where I had 2 fire engines, and I think all 5 of my police cars all on calls, and I was having to manually tell them what to do throughout all of those calls. I think one was a burning building, so the police had to crowd control, investigate. The fire truck had to extinguish the fire. Then I had another one where it was like a dog trapped in a vehicle, and the police couldn't break the window, so I had to send my other fire fire engine to that one, smash the window, then send them back to the fire, which was really annoying because I also had like 2 other calls going on at the same time, as well as having to update everyone's like objectives as they finish and complete. Another thing is early on, before you unlock the resource points for automatic fueling and washing, you will have to manually wash, clean your vehicles and refuel them, which can be a little bit frustrating. I didn't mind it, but when the game does start getting like hectic and you've got a lot of calls going on, you pretty much need all your vehicles being used at the one time. I think there was only ever once or twice where I had a spare vehicle back at base. But yeah, like I said, the core mechanic is the base building, which is very basic, and you won't do it any longer than the first 20 minutes beyond adding new vehicles, new bays, and maybe new dispatchers and staff. But I think there is an option to get more than one base. I haven't gotten to that point yet, so bear that in mind if you're going to get the game. As you can see in the background, the response, how you send vehicles to objective, is pretty simple, which I enjoy. That might put you off. If it does, that's completely up to yourselves. Some people prefer like a bit more depth. When it comes to something like that, I think it actually enhances gameplay by making it easier and simpler, and doesn't take up too much time, because you get a lot of calls in this, so you're always busy. But yeah, the main gameplay loop is upgrade your base and send out your response officers and your fire engines and stuff out to calls, and then the micro that you can see in the background is the stuff that you attach them to, and that's the objectives that get a little bit grindy, because after some calls you'll have to send them to somewhere else, like the prison or the hospital at some point. I haven't had that, but I don't know if that's only for ambulances. Yeah, that's pretty much the full gameplay loop. The calls are pretty varied from what I've had. I think I've had the riot in the library twice in about 40 minutes of gameplay, which I don't know if that's good or bad. You would have to decide that yourself. But there is a mission editor as well, so you could probably make your own calls, and as well as mod in other people's calls that they've made, which is really cool. I'd also just like to touch on the graphics and sound. Graphically, the game isn't winning any awards. The graphics are clean, but they're very like cartoonish, as you can see by like the little collar character on the top right corner. It doesn't give you much to work with graphically. I think there is a plan in the future for them to add more detail and more graphical improvements. I don't know what that entails, especially because the game is based on like Google Maps, so I'm not sure how they would do that. I think the graphics do fine for right now. I think the actual gameplay here is the main thing. It's not about the graphics, it's just a solid emergency game basically, because I know there was a lot of controversy with the most recent emergency game, so I think this one's just trying to get into the genre, because it's a pretty niche genre. You don't get a lot of these sort of games, at least not that I've experienced. The sound design is fine. A lot of the time you'll be listening to the control center talk. They talk quite a lot. They give you updates on your objectives and how your actual police are doing and things like that, if they need an objective updated as well. I don't think, when I started editing the video, I don't think that there is any like background sound. I don't think there's any like music in the game. I may be wrong there, but I didn't notice it. The vehicles all have sirens. The custom UK police cruiser that someone modded had modded sirens, I believe, where it was like the UK sirens. I think the base game sirens are all German. because I believe the people that made the game are also German. I'm not sure. The devs might not be, but I think that is the case because there's a lot of liveries for the vehicles which are German as well. But yeah, the sound design is fine. You're mainly listening to the women talk, the control center talk, and sirens. But if you zoom out the map, you can't hear them, so you might not even need to do that either if you didn't want to. I'd just like to touch on some of the strengths and some of the things that the game does well. I'd say the core mechanics around dispatching your vehicles, upgrading your base, and probably the progression are pretty solid, especially the dispatching of your units. I've not had any issues at all with them getting to a location, albeit they're a little bit slow, which is a shame because a lot of emergency vehicles all over the world can go very fast if they need to get to an emergency, but that's fine. It might be to do with like a limitation with the game, I'm not sure. But yeah, I would say that that's a pretty solid strength of this game. I probably wouldn't say the graphics just because of how basic they are. It's not really winning any awards there. Same with the sound design. The best sounds you'll probably get in the game are the sirens, which I believe are, again, German sirens. I'm not familiar, I'm not sure. It might just be generic sirens. Now I would just like to touch on some of the things that the game doesn't do so well. The game is early access, so just temper some of the weaknesses, because I'm sure they will improve. I would say that the progression isn't very in depth. There's not a lot of depth there, which is a bit of a shame. When you look at the resource points, you just get very generic upgrades like more vehicles, fire, ambulances, automatic fueling, automatic washing, and then there's a couple of other ones like different. So like you can have speed enforcement and like a SWAT van, like that allows you to carry more police officers, just things like that. But there's not a lot of depth there. I would probably say one of the weaknesses is also the graphics as well. Like, I don't mind them personally, but I know some people don't like a game that doesn't have nice graphics. These graphics are just like good enough for a game, in my opinion. I think they do the job, but I know that some people might not like them, so I've put this in a bit of a weakness. What else would I say? Honestly, just there is a little bit of depth missing from the full game. The main thing you get here is just the dispatching and running your own emergency services, but the base building's pretty basic. So the main thing you'll get is the actual emergency deployment and unlocking new emergency services. That's the most you'll get here. So if that sounds good to you, that might not be a weakness, but I think for the price point of $15.99, no, that's on sale right now because it's a launch sale. I think the game's £19.99, so I don't know what that is in other currencies, but for me that's a little bit expensive for the full package here. Obviously that's up to you, I'm just giving you some of the details in my opinion, so you can go ahead and make your decision on that as well. And then just a little bit to touch on at the end here. I think for me personally, I enjoyed the game, but I don't think you should buy it, and my reasoning is the price point I think is too high for the amount of content that it's released with. Sure, the gameplay is fine, but I don't think there's enough content there for $15.99 or $19.99, so £20 or £16 at UK. I think it's maybe one of those ones you add to your wish list and see how it's doing in 6 months time, because there is a big roadmap. So I think that's probably the best bet for the game currently. If you don't mind waiting and you just want to get in early, sure, but in my opinion I don't think you should buy yet, and you should get in at a later date possibly. So if you guys have played, or if you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments please. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe. So yeah, take care guys, I'll see you in